Thank you. Good morning. I'll call the meeting to order here at 9:31. Before we get going on the agenda, this is our first council meeting with our new CAO, Mr. Matthew Paris. I'd like to thank you again for accepting the position and joining us here today. So hopefully we're not too rough on you the first day.
I hope not.
Start with the adoption of the agenda. Administration, any additions from administration?
We have no official additions, Mr. Reeve and members of council, but we have the privilege of introducing a number of team members, one new member and other individuals that have been successful being promoted to more demanding, more responsible positions. And the introductions will be handled by Lan, our manager of finance, and Joan and Jeff, if that's okay.
Okay.
Mr. Reeve, start us off.
Okay. Good morning, Council and me. I want to introduce Michaela Bachmeyer. She's our brand new addition to the finance team. The accounting clerks. Yes, she's the accounting clerk, replacing for Jordan's old position. And with that, Jordan got promoted to the accounting specialist, working beside Anita, and they both gonna have us with the finance department. Yeah. So, welcome to the team.
Yes, thank you. Welcome. I guess you're newly, just before you go on, I'll let you go, Jeff, first, and then we'll do a round of introductions here for everybody. You're new here, so you know which councillors you're directed to.
Thank you, Council. I'd like to introduce, I plan to use 4 of my team members, but 2 of them have to be on the road and clearing snow from last night. I will introduce them in the next opportunity. But the pleasure of introducing Tracy Katie. She's been with different levels of governments for over 15 years, and she's been working for Woodlands County for almost 2 years, housing the front of the back, and she's been recently promoted to the administrative assistant position of infrastructure services, taking over wellness position. And then I have Mr. Robert Kerr. Robert has been in municipal government for 25 years, and of which 15 of them are with Woodlands County as lead utility technician. He has recently been promoted to the manager of environmental services position, looking after water, wastewater, stormwater, transfer sites, and all those tasks. And we welcome these 2 individuals to their new roles, and I'll introduce other people next time. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Jeff, and congratulations on the promotions. It was very well deserved. With that, or you had somebody else?
Joan has one more.
You all know Joshua Raposo. He's been with us for 8 months as planning supervisor. January 1st, we reclassified his position back up to the manager's role. When we initially hired him, it was thought that with some of his, I don't want to say lack of experience, but he was fairly new to the planning era and supervising individuals. We wanted to give him an opportunity. He has far exceeded that. I call him my star of planning and development. And yeah, we're very pleased, and we've repositioned him up to the manager's role because he's done very well with his team, and yeah, like I say, far exceeded our expectations.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, and congratulations, Joshua. I know it's been a pleasure working with you in the MPC, and you've been a good breadth of information for anything that I needed. With that, again, let's try it here again. If you want to start, Councillor Dean, we do have new people in the room here, so.
Alan Dean, I'm the councillor of Whitecourt Central.
Jeremy Wilhelm, Whitecourt East.
Peter Kilkin, Goose Lake and Freeman River.
Dave Cush, I'm the Reeve and the councillor for Ensemble.
I'm John Burrows, councillor for Whitecourt West.
Bruce Prestich, councillor for Blue Ridge.
Devin Williams, councillor for Fortis and White-Timeo.
All right, thank you very much. Back to the agenda. No new additions to administration. I was going to put an addition under 12.3 personnel matter, but that's going to follow in on the same conversation with the CEO report as well too. So we'll just have the personnel conversation following the CAO report. It kind of goes hand in hand with what Mr. Benedetto was presenting to us. So with that, if I can get a motion to adopt the agenda as presented, please.
Just a quick question, Steve, as presented or as amended, because we added 12.3?
I'm not adding 12.3
Okay.
well, I was going to add a 12.3, but with the talks to Mr. Benedetto just before, his conversation is very similar. It's the same topic as the 12.3, so. Councillor
I'll
Wilhelm?
motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
Thank you. Motion on the floor, call the question, all in favor? That one's carried, thank you. 3.1, council meeting, January 15, 2025 minutes. Any errors, omissions? Anyone to see there? Councillor Kuchen?
I'll move we adopt the minutes of the meeting January 15, 2025.
Thank you, Councillor. With that, I'll call the question, all in favor? And that is carried. Brings us to 9.1, subdivision extension request.
Good morning, Chair and Council. So we've recently received a subdivision extension request. Administration's received an application. Here has got a subdivision approval back from 2022. They've had a year extension already, and they're seeking an additional year to meet the conditions of their subdivision application. So administration is bringing this forward for council's decision. Administration's recommendation is the approval of the time extension for an additional year until December 7th, 2025.
Thank you. Any discussion on the time extension? A question I do have is in regards to the conditions on the application. How close are they? Do you know?
They're fairly close. It's just they need to construct 2 approaches. So they're already on way of doing that. They just need a little bit more time to complete it. We're looking at, they're probably gonna get approval here in the summer months when the approaches can be inspected.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? Councillor Kuchen?
I'll make a motion that council approve the time extension request for subdivision application 2022 sub 11 to December 7th of 2025.
Thank you, Councillor. With that, any discussion on that motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? That's carried. 9.2, Athabasca Watershed Council Board of Directors seat. Mr. Roach, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Reading Council. My pleasure to be here once again before you, and our item at hand is regarding a open seat that is available for a municipality in the Upper Basin for the Athabasca Watershed Council. And in conversation, I guess, sorry, I'll open with the RFD. So the recommendation in front of council is that Woodlands County Council nominate an individual to serve on the board of directors for the Athabasca Watershed Council representing Woodlands County. That appointee can be either a councillor or any individual who is a resident of Woodlands County. And in a further conversation with Petra, the executive director, yesterday, the process basically is we would just have to, if council decides to go forward, provide a letter requesting membership in the organization and appointing that individual to the board seat. No membership fee is charged at this point by the organization, but donations are appreciated. And we do actually have a $2,000 budgeted amount in the economic development budget that we could build a donation for the group out of. So that is sort of the summary of the recommendation and everything that's there. In conversation with them, they did provide their 25th anniversary report. And so that is attached as a PDF, and then also attached is information regarding the role of the board and also some of the time commitments and all of that. So I'll put that forward to you and see if there's any questions.
Thank you. Any discussion from Councillor Kuchen?
Yeah, I'd just like to, I'm kind of a proponent for this because of a presentation that was given by John Knapp, actually at the last regional, Pembina regional meeting and also at the Ag Service Board. One of the things that's happening in Canada or north of the 49th parallel is a huge push towards water management. And these watershed councils have a pile of information. They are going to be a key player in that place. And because the Athabasca watershed actually drains, I believe, 25% or 24% of the eastern slopes through our municipality and all the way up to the, actually into Lake Athabasca and then on into the north. Water management's going to become a huge part of this new reality that we're living in. So I think it's important that one of our members sit on that council.
Any other discussion? Councillor Dean?
So through the chair to council and to Bert, this was brought up at our ECDEV meeting as well. And so the committee looked at just exactly what Councillor Kulkin's describing and thought that it was more than appropriate that we have a representative. I quite frankly, I think Councillor Kulkin is the most well-equipped, but he is asked to serve as an alternate. So if there's nobody else that wants this position, then I'd be happy to represent Woodlands.
Any discussion on that? No, looks like Councillor Dean and Councillor Kukin as an alternate. If somebody wants to make that motion for us, Councillor Burrows?
I'll make a motion that we appoint, the council nominates Councillor Dean to serve on the board of directors for the Athabasca Watershed Council, representing Woodlands County, with Councillor Kukin as the alternate.
Thank you. Councillor Dean?
Can I just speak to the motion, please? So as I understand it, administration would complete that nomination, or is there an endorsement from council that's required?
Basically, if we have the motion from council, we can write a letter that I think that we would be quite comfortable in signing, and we can put that forward. The one thing that I would mention is, while there is no set membership fee, other municipalities have made that small donation as they are a nonprofit group. So we do have that budget stipend. So if council wishes, we could certainly put all or a portion of that $2,000 and maybe indicate that in the letter as well. I know when I spoke with the executive director about that yesterday, she said, well, wow, if you guys came on board and brought some cash, that would sure help us a lot. So,
Councillor Dean?
Interesting how administration slips that cash donation in right at the end of the presentation. I'm joking.
Always talk about money last, right? That's the sales talk.
Okay, so we currently have a motion on the floor to appoint Councillor Dean and Councillor Kukin as the alternate. Any other discussion on the motion? Councillor Kukin?
One of the things I should mention as well is that Dan Moore, who was formerly worked for ANC, is on that council. And he actually, I had a chat with him, and he said that this would be a really important place for us to, put some resources. So,
Okay. And motion on the floor to appoint Councillor Dean and Councillor Kukin. Anybody wanting to speak to the motion? Not seeing any, I'll call the question. All in favor? Okay, that's carried. Do we need a motion for the letter of support or financial, Mr. Roach, before we move on?
Honestly, it is a budgeted item, but I think that for clarification, if council would like to make a motion regarding an amount that we would like to bring forward, that's probably not a bad idea. And that's probably the best way to do it, I would think.
Question for you, for the other individuals who kind of have a donated amount from their municipalities, what have you seen what those funding levels look like?
I haven't seen the exact numbers, but in conversation with Petra, that 2,000 seems to be about ballpark with others. So I think whatever council would be comfortable, but we do have that as a budgeted line item within economic development under sponsorship.
Okay. Is there anybody wanting to make that motion, or do you want to give it to administration to bring something back? Councillor Wellen?
I'll make a motion that we send a letter of support, including a donation of $1,500 to the Watershed Council, along with the letter.
Motion on the floor. Any discussion on that motion? Not seeing any. I'll call the question. All in favor? That's carried. Thank you, Mr. Roach.
Thank you, council.
9.3 property tax auction. Good morning, Lan.
Good morning, Reeve and Council. I am here today to present the detail regarding the 2025 property tax auctions and looking for council approval to proceed with the auction as outlined in the RFT. So each year, the municipality must take actions on the property with the outstanding tax arrear. So under the MGA, if the arrear remain unpaid, municipality is required to offer the parcel for sale at the auction, at the public auctions. So for the 2025 tax sale, there are two parcels to be considered. An independent external appraisal has been obtained to determine the market value for each parcel. The property will be sold on an as-is basis, with no guarantee or warranty provided to the buyers. The term of the sale would be 10% deposit is required at the time of the sale, payable by cash or certified check. The remaining balance must be paid within 10 days. If payment is not completed within the deadline, the deposit may be forfeited, and the property will be released for sale. So administrations have followed the step to ensure comply with the MGA. The notifications has been sent out to the property owner on January 13, 2025. The tax sale will be advertised in the Alberta Gazette on February 15, and then follow with the local advertising on the local newspaper on March 11 and the 12th. So the proceed to the auction will first be applied to cover for the outstanding tax arrear and any costs associated with the sale. Any remaining surplus fund will be placed into the separate bank account. The former owner has up to 10 years to apply for to the court for the surplus fund. If no application is made, then the municipality may use the fund for its own purpose. So with that, administrations recommend that council set the 2025 property tax auction for March 28, 2025 at 2 p.m. at the Woodlands County Council Chamber. And council approved the reserve bid price for the listed property as indicated in the Schedule A. So this process ensure compliance with the municipal tax recovery requirements while allowing the county to recover the unpaid taxes. So with that, at this time, I'm happy to answer any question you may have.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Coogan.
Yeah, through the chair to Len. On the property northwest of 25, 63-6 west of the 5th, what would our environmental responsibility be as a county if that property sells? Like, how does that work? Because that is an old mill site, if I looked at the map correctly.
As far as I see, this one is, I thought it's a residential property.
Yeah, I don't know, because there is a residential property on there as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
So,
So with the tax auction, the municipality have an option to take over the title, or we just. So if the tax sale doesn't go through, the county have an option to take over the title. And if we do take over the title, then we have to take all the responsibility pertaining to that property.
okay.
We also have an option to not take on the title. Then we don't have the further step to go with the like sell the property to recover the tax. Yeah.
Mr. Reeve, if I could.
Yes, Mr. Benedetto.
Municipalities now build into the process further to what Lan is saying, before making that decision to take a title for a property, it's evaluated, and if, for example, if it was a former filling station site and there was risk that there was contamination because of leaking tanks, etc. So you do that due diligence if there's any reason to be concerned, to ensure that it is not contaminated, because the registered owner can become responsible for those reclamation fees. And you see a lot of old filling station sites sitting there because the cost of reclaiming and cleaning them up exceed the value. So that's an important safeguard that municipalities have been building into the process. If there is not interest in these properties at the auction, certainly that needs to happen before the decision would be made to take the titles if there's any reason that we are even suspicious.
Thank
Any
you.
other questions, comments, concerns? Well, it takes a long time for a property to get to this point, so. I'm not seeing any. Councillor Wilhelm?
A motion that Woodlands County Council set the 2025 property tax auction to be held on March 28th, 2025 at 2 p.m. in the Woodlands County Council chambers located at number 1 Woodlands Lane, Whitecourt, Alberta, and further that council set the reserve bid price for the properties as indicated in Schedule A.
Thank you, Councillor. Any discussion on the motion? Not seeing any. I call the question. All in favor? That's carried. 9.4, Spring 2025 RMA Convention meeting with Minister Dreeshen.
Just got to get to the right spot in my agenda here. Mr. Reid.
Thank you, Len.
Mr. Reid and members of council, the county has been advised of an invitation for an opportunity to meet with Minister Dreeshen, Minister of Transportation and Economic Corridors at the Spring 2025 Rural Municipalities Convention. And they're asking, A, do we want to meet, and B, what are your agenda topics if you want to meet? We know, and we put in number 1, the STIP grant for the upgrades at the airport, because we know how critically important that is, and I know you've mentioned that as well, so we knew that was an automatic. Don't know if there'd be others, but certainly those time slots are quite compressed in time, and you really want to focus on 1 or maybe 2 critically important issues to you and be very crisp in your messaging to the ministry. So we're seeking your direction if you're satisfied with the items being STIP grant, or if you felt there was another pressing item, what that would be, so we can respond positively and affirmatively that we welcome the opportunity to meet, and these are our items, so we're fully compliant with their request in a timely manner.
I definitely agree. STIP funding for our airport. I mean, we weren't successful last year after we met. We do have support letters that have been coming in from industry members and some of our neighboring municipalities, which will hopefully help paint the regional aspect and the economic aspect that we maybe weren't able to highlight enough last year. Anything else from council that we should be? Councilor Burrows.
So there's a new, under the LGFF, so Municipal Sustainability Initiative, MSI, went away. Now we have the LGFF. Under the MSI, there was never an operating component. The new LGFF, they're bringing in a $60 million operating component that we've never seen before. We really don't know what that's going to look like, and I'm wondering if municipal airports might be a good vehicle on the rural side for something like that, because the operation expenses are so high, and there's really a difficult funding mechanism for them. So that's the first one.
I would definitely support that, given we're talking about trying to get funding for the infrastructure side.
Yeah, we can.
I would agree that would be a good one to talk about.
We can loop that in with the STIP funding as well. The other one is, we all know that I think and Minister Dreeshen's been pretty vocal about resource road development. So we've got a situation up in the fort where there's a huge gravel area that's in there, and the urban municipalities need aggregate to make cement, to build bridges, build sidewalks, build roads, build all of these things, but it's a non-renewable resource that comes out of a rural municipality that the economic benefit to that rural municipality is really limited. So what would be really nice is if we could build a resource road where we don't have to have, what was the number? Coming through the hamlet, one truck every
Well,
3 minutes?
right now, it'll be up to 300.
Yeah, so I mean, that's a lot of trucks traveling through a small hamlet, through school zones with some heavy trucks. And I think we'd get a lot more participation with less resistance on development like this. And if we can get access to resources a little more readily, we always talk about, increasing the size of the pie kind of thing so we can generate more revenue, how about we reduce the cost? So if we can actually find a way to get a resource road to in the municipality that the province will help fund for us, then we can make access to resources a little more palatable for our residents. And that also goes on the lumber side. We've got a few roads that we maintain that are fairly major roads that are access to timber and mills. But on the recovery, well, the mills we would have a recovery, but on the forestry side we wouldn't. So.
Councillor Fluken and then Councillor Dean.
Well, I believe on the West Fraser one, there is a recovery, but I don't think on the Canfor ones there is because they don't pay their taxes to this municipality. So that's an obvious one.
I just want to kind of cue that with it. They might not pay tax municipality, but they do pay their, your trucking permits and your log haul permits and stuff, so that we are generating some. I don't want the public perception to be that we're not getting anything from them. But as far as mills, yes, the taxes for the mill site doesn't come to us. Councillor Dean.
Through the chair to Councillor Burrows, the operating fund that you talked about, does it stand apart from LJFF?
It's a separate $60 million fund. It's brand new.
Brand new.
And I don't think they quite know how they're allocating it yet. So I'm just thinking if we can, get in the door first, we might be able to make a case for.
That sounds like a great conversation.
Yeah.
Okay.
So for number one, we have, STIP funding. Number two would be the operating fund allocation of that 60 million to have a discussion on. And then number three, we were talking, how do you want to put that? Industry access roads?
Resource
roads?
Resource and industry. I guess they're all resource roads, really.
Resource roads.
And again, I think that we really tie that together with the rural message that we have the raw resources, they want the finished product, and we're part of that chain. So we're not just a user of their services, we're a provider of the resources, and that chain gets recognized all the way through. So how do we fund some of these things? We're not necessarily generating revenue off those particular roads. So,
Mr. Benedetto, and then I'll.
I just want to put forward a suggestion for council's consideration, and of course will be directed with your guidance. The resource road would clearly fit in the mandate of Minister Dreeshen because he's roads and economic corridors. So having resources are important economic corridors. So that's clearly within the mandate of that department. The LGFF and the transition from MSI and the new fund, that would fall more under municipal affairs. And we have a good rapport with Minister McIver, and we've made other representations to Minister McIver regarding some pending legislation that's very important to us. So I would suggest that one probably fits better with the rapport we've got with Minister McIver, and then keep this one to the two that are directly in the mandate of the department. And again, we're realizing these are probably 15-minute slots, and by the time you go in and introduce, you got 10 minutes to pitch your case. So you don't want too many items, and you want to be right at the heart of where the minister can make a difference. And the LGFF isn't a fit with this ministry. So I would suggest the STIP and the resource roads fit squarely within this ministry, and would suggest maybe you consider the two. But of course, we'll take your direction.
Thank you for the feedback. Joan had her hand up there. I'll come over to you.
Reven Council, just, I'm sure this has probably been kind of forgotten about, but we do have another area with respect to Resource Road. We have a large area northwest of the airport in which there is a large tract of gravel. We do have industry that is back in there that do hold SMLs. However, the cost to get access to it and to bring it out down through the bottom past the airport and out to Highway 32, the costs were relatively significant, and the area just hasn't developed. So again, we have got a large area that is not being developed for that fact of not being able to get a resource road. And I know there had been conversation of bringing it perhaps out through the airport, and we did have ISL Engineering do kind of a transportation corridor report when we did the airport vicinity plan. So that maybe something else that could be mentioned as well is that we do have the two areas. We've got Fort Assiniboine area, and then we do have the one behind the airport northwest there that could definitely be developed.
That's good information to have. I would have overlooked that. Thank you. Councillor Dean?
Through the chair to administration and I guess council, I understand the CAO's recommendation makes sense to keep things in the purview of the minister responsible for it, but I also think that Councillor Burrows brought up the concept of kind of time is of the essence on this a new fund. So if we're talking about a good relationship with that ministry, is that request coming through a letter from council, or do we want to request a meeting? What's the best direction there?
Would administration be able to see if we can even get a small meeting with municipal affairs? Found last time we had more of a personal small meeting. We got a little bit more information out of them. But maybe we try to keep with that trend right now.
Yeah, we can express that interest to Minister McIver's office to deal with LGFF and those funding mechanism questions, and then keep this meeting very focused on those two critical STIP and resource roads. If that works, we're happy to do that.
Do you want a separate motion for Minister McIver?
You know, that would actually be good, because then we can refer to council passing a motion asking for a meeting, so that'd be perfect if you don't mind.
So we have the two topics for the STIP. If we feel that's good, do we want to make a motion on those two?
Sure.
Councillor Dean?
So I move that council direct administration to confirm the opportunity to meet with the Honorable Devin Dreeshen, Minister of Transportation and Economic Corridors at the Spring 2025 Rural Municipality of Alberta Convention and outline the following two priority items for discussion. One is STIP grant airport improvement, and the second one is Resource Road. That's it.
Okay. Say Resource Road, if I could make an amendment to Resource Road funding for economic corridors.
Sure.
Any discussion on that motion? Not seeing any public question, all in favor? That's carried. And if somebody wants to make a motion to request a meeting with Minister McIver. Councillor Burrows?
I can make a motion that we request a meeting with Minister McIver. You want it at the conference or just
maybe
anytime?
At his earliest convenience.
At his convenience, I guess, and then around the LGFF operational funding as it may pertain to airport operations.
Thank you, Councillor. Administration has that. Any discussion on that motion? Not seeing any. Public question, all in favor? That's carried. Brings us down 10.1, correspondence and information items. Anything there anybody sees, wants seen, or wants to discuss? Seeing any? Anybody want to make a motion?
Mr. Reeve, if I just could, you had alluded to earlier some very good letters of support coming in for the airport, and one of these letters is listed in the correspondence, and there have been some very good letters of support that have been garnered, and I know we've reached out to some of the industrial partners, et cetera, and there's been some very solid letters come forward. So we just wanted to highlight that and for council's attention.
Okay. Councillor Wilhelm, I can see your hand was up there.
Sorry, I was just going to make a motion. I'll motion that council receive the correspondence and information items as circulated.
Thank you, Councillor. With that, I'll call the question. All in favor? That's carried. 11, Councillor reports and questions. I'll start with Councillor Williams.
You guys are super fast this morning, but the only thing I had wrote down here to talk about was Orange County just did a shelter belt. Well, they do it every year, but they did a shelter belt program. It was all over Facebook. So a few people in my area were asking if Woodlands County would ever be a part of it. So I'm not sure if that's something that we could look into. I don't know what the cost is or anything like that, but we sell lots of trees and different stuff, and people are concerned about how much deforestation in the farmland there is. So I've had a few people bring it up anyway, so I said I would bring that up and see. It looked like a pretty good program. Kind of looked into it a little bit, but yeah, that was all I wrote down so fast.
Okay, anything else, Councilor Williams? Councilor Prestige?
On January 17th, we had a growth board meeting. On the 20th, we had our Pembina Zone 3 meeting in Edmonton. As Peter was saying, we had a really good speaker there. Then we had our Ag Services Conference on the 21st, 22nd, and came home on the 23rd. It was just incredible speakers at the conference. I've never been to one of the Ag Services conferences before, and I've seen the speakers and I'm kind of going, well, you know, this will be interesting. But they were just incredible. We had one speaker on drones, and it's amazing the stuff they're coming out with drones and geofencing cattle, and very interesting. And we had one speaker on gophers. That was interesting. Yeah, I learned a lot at that conference. It was quite educational. And that's it.
Hey, Councilor, any questions for Councilor?
No, I want to give thanks to Jeff and Paul. The speed signs are working in Blue Ridge. That'll make residents very happy. Thank you. And on a personal note, after much contemplation, and I am not running in the next election. When I first ran 7.5 years ago, I said I only wanted to work or do this for 2 terms, and that'll be it. I'm coming up to 68 years old, and I was thinking, do I want to do this when I'm 71, 72? I want to retire and take life easy. So there are some good candidates, one in particular that is really good. So we'll see what happens.
I just want to say, it's been a pleasure having you on the board here since I got on middle of last term in a by-election and this term, and your presence at the roundly table here obviously is going to be missed, and missed from people in your community as well. And I don't think a lot of people outside of the chambers or people who have never been part of this fully understand or respect the time and the commitment and some of the stresses that go along with it. You age 20 years in 4, so. Anything for Councilor Prestige? Councilor Will.
I just want to say, Bruce, sorry to hear about your decision, but I understand why you're doing it, and I will miss you. If I'm back on council again and you're not here, I'll miss having you here.
Thank you. Anything else? Seeing any? Councilor Burrows.
Yeah, I mean, thanks to Councilor Preston, she and I kind of came aboard at the same time, so he's had to go through what I had to go through. I understand the decision, and I thank him for his efforts on the part of his constituents. On my report, I missed a couple of things at the zone meeting. I was off at doing some other stuff, so I'm going to try and give you a little broader overview. So we had the council meeting on 15th of January, obviously. I missed the district meeting, but that was attended by the new district chair. And I was out in Toronto, and it's interesting because there was a convention there on rural municipalities. So I guess it's really interesting because you get a different perspective from rural municipalities in different parts of the country and the provinces and how they're dealing with stuff. And as much as in Alberta we're fighting with infrastructure costs and how do we fund this stuff, Ontario is no different. I don't think there is a municipality, any municipality in Canada right now that is not having significant financial challenges in the infrastructure department. So if anyone thinks this is an Alberta thing, it's not. We have a few different factors, but it's a challenge that's happening all over. We've got increased regulation on the compliance side that's costing a pile of money on the environmental studies. And then the infrastructure and the construction itself is just getting really spendy. So that's kind of why I was talking about access to resources and gravel roads, and how do we lower the cost of some of these access to infrastructure. There was a lot of discussion around a couple of the other zone meetings. I got to go to 2 other zone meetings, so we'll see how the south and the east zones kind of view the way things are going. And there was a lot of discussion around the federal coalition of municipalities. And it's interesting because the federal government, when they look at grants for rural, and I think we ran into this a lot in legislation under definitions. So how do you define rural? The province doesn't have a good description of rural, and rural under FCM is populations under 100,000. So we're competing with Peterborough? This is ridiculous. And again, in Ontario, you'll have a rural municipality that says, my residents have to travel 17 kilometers to get to a medical center. 17, holy smokes. Don't threaten me with happiness. But it's it's an issue there as well. But so I always struggle with these definitions around rural. One thing that Ontario does have is a really good description around core infrastructure. They're very specific on roads, water, wastewater, and utilities, and that's it. That's core infrastructure. So I guess that's the thing that I really think we need to focus on from both a federal and a provincial guideline as well, is really what is rural, and how do we try and get better access to some of the funding to develop and to keep access to some of these resources that drive the economy. That's about it for me. Do you have any questions?
Any questions for Councilor Bruce? Not seeing any. Before I go over to Councilor Dean, I would like to congratulate him. When we were at the Chamber of Commerce Gala, nominations for a generational award for businesses within the area, and the Whitecourt stationery was selected as the recipient. And as a representative of his business, he was there. So congratulations, Alan. You guys have a fantastic business. Has been in the community for a very long time, and hopefully he's around for a long time more.
Appreciate that.
With that, yeah.
Yeah, and just, all the credit really should go to my wife. I just do as I'm told, so. So as far as council activities, I kind of mirrored what Councillor Prestige and probably Councillor Colquhoun's going to talk about with respect to attending the zone meeting on the 20th, and then following into the Ag Service Board conference. And as Councillor Prestige said, the speakers are always interesting, but in particular this year, they were thought-provoking, and that one of them was about bees. And who knew that somebody could stand there in front of me for an hour and make me interested and fascinated in bees and honeybees and wasps, etc. But she did. So it was just typical of what happened at that conference. Reeling back to the 16th, we had a session at the Canada Inn, put on an information session about SMRs. It was well attended and well received by the people there, and there are upcoming information sessions scheduled for February 25th, 6th, and 7th. The first two are at the casino, and the other one is at the Blue Ridge Hall. So advertising for those sessions will be coming out in the mainstream media and social media as well. And also on the 16th, we had our ECDEV meeting, and the committee approved a very ambitious agenda for our EDO. Mr. Roach is going to be a busy person. He is already, but he's added numerous things to the schedule. One of the things that the committee had asked for with respect to, we're hoping that the NRED application that had been submitted is going to be approved. If it is approved, we're looking for a kind of a schedule of events and a budget so that council can see where the grant funding is going, because of course it's a matching grant. Council voted to put to add $100,000 a year over 3 years, so we need to scrutinize the budget and make sure that everybody's comfortable with it. Last Saturday, as Reeve Cush alluded to, we had the Chamber Gala, and it was well attended. We had I attended along with our EDO, Bert, and his wife, and as well Joan and her husband Nick, and our Reeve Cush and myself. So it was a nice affair. And that's it.
Any questions for Councillor Dean? Just leading off on your conversation with these, one thing that was a really big takeaway was when they were talking about what they're finding as far as the competition between farm bees and native bees, especially when they draw on the food source, what they have, and kind of what they're seeing around. So it's kind of hard to track some of that data, but they're seeing a decline in the numbers of a lot of the species of the native bees or bees to our province. So it was a really good conversation.
Yeah, honestly, I didn't realize I would be that interested, but it was fascinating.
Councillor Wilhelm. Sorry, Councillor Prestige.
Through the chair to administration. About the bees, something that I did not know, and I don't think very many people know it, is honeybees are not native to North America. They're imported from Europe and Asia.
Councillor Wilhelm.
Fairly quiet couple of weeks. Obviously was in on the ECDAB meeting, but Councillor Dean already mentioned everything there. Just want to give props to administration. I haven't had a resident call me with any issues in quite a while, so that just leads to the fact that you guys are probably doing an excellent job out there right now. So thank you for that. Thank you for making my life a little bit easier for the last couple of months, so I appreciate that. And I have nothing else to share.
Thank you for Councillor Wilhelm. Councillor Kuchen.
Yeah, I guess we'll start with 17th. We had our Growth Alberta Partnership Board meeting. It was very interesting in the sense that we're slowly moving forward on website and tourism development. I think we're going to put a lot of energy into that in the next little while. Then on the 13th in the morning, attended the regional Pembina regional meeting. That was really interesting. There was a couple of items in there. One, especially John Knapp spoke about what's happening in the world, in the geopolitical, and also in where the food production is and how that's going to affect us in the future. We are looking really good in Alberta. Anything north of the 49th parallel will definitely be in a more food secure zone than a lot of the ones south of that. The other one that was interesting was the discussion on FOIP. I think after the lawyers gave us a rundown of how that all works, I think potentially we'll be looking at some administrative costs that are going to be attached to that in the future, and I think that's something that we're going to have to try to build into our budgets down the road. Then, of course, we were at the Ag Service Board conference, and between bees, rats, feral hogs, drones, virtual fencing, it was an incredibly interesting session this year. And it was interesting that it's starting to connect the dots between our economic development and how it's going to be viewed, some of the potential financial issues that are going to happen with the geopolitical. And I was actually not at one point bored. The real interesting ones was the Richardson ground squirrel presentation. I had no idea of how those little critters behave, and we've got a few things that we can speak about afterwards. But all in all, that was an excellent conference. Coming back on the 23rd, I had a Barhead District Social Housing meeting where we were starting to discuss some of the issues that are going to be facing us in the housing area, especially the fact that we have a shortage, which is probably the same with the Lac St. Anne shortage of the class 3 social housing, which requires home care, and it's going to be a big part of our decision making in the future. I don't think we're going to see a big requisition increase this go around for Barhead, but it will happen down the road. Then that was that. Yeah, that's it for my report.
Any questions for Councillor Cook? Let's see any. I'll get my report here.
Sorry, I just, Mr. Chair, if I could just,
Yes, please.
one more item that I forgot to update people on. I don't know if anyone's been to Risk Pro. The Risk Pro is a kind of an education on insurance, municipal insurance, and how to mitigate some of the risks and keep the municipal insurance lower so that you don't have to pass that on to ratepayers. But there might be some interesting discussions. It's going to come up April 23rd and 24th this year, and it's in the Edmonton area. And there are some really I don't want to say interesting, they're kind of critical developments around insurance coverage for wildfire that are all wildfire related, and I think this thing that's recently happened out in California is going to trigger, because some of the carriers, the reinsurance companies that are actually carrying those policies are carrying our policies as well here in Alberta. So I know it's happening in another country, but we're more tied together than you realize in the insurance area, so we might have to be more proactive on fire management and some of this stuff. So if you have any availability, and I'm sorry to interrupt again, but April 23rd and 24th.
And just where is that meeting at?
It's at the River Creek.
Hey, thank you, Councillor. On with my report, I'm going to start off by thanking Councillor Wilhelm for emceeing the SMR discussion they had there. Unfortunately, I had a personal issue come up about 15 minutes before, so I dropped that in his lap, and I heard he did a fantastic job in a short order there. Had a community futures meeting just before, or I guess at more afternoon of the SMR one. Kind of an overview of where they are and new projects and new ventures that have been coming in, and I guess businesses that they funded and what they do. Michelle does a fantastic job out of that office with her staff on the services that they're able to actually provide for the region. So great organization. I'm definitely proud to be part of that. Attended the zone meeting. I guess most of what we were talking about there has already been covered. The ASB conference. One thing I just kind of want to build a little bit more off of when we were talking about the wild hogs. The presentation that we had at the ASB conference was from a gentleman from Texas, and he was talking about what they were seeing with the feral pigs down in the States and kind of the spread of them and the efforts that they've had in regards to eradicating that problem. He was talking that they're finding, depending on what state you're at or what area of the state, they have multiple genetic genes of different pig families, and they're finding, one family could, or a pig family or sounder could be related in Texas to one way up in Missouri or something, across state lines. They're finding that for the purpose of hunting and sport hunting, they're having individuals moving them across state lines and across county lines and kind of releasing them for sport, for hunting. So you can get your thrill of hopping in a blackbird with a machine gun or a black hawk and flying around and trying to take them out of the air. What they're finding is all of those hunting methods and measures that they're trying to implement at a cost in the U.S. isn't actually working on the solution. And what we've been doing with the Squeal on Pigs program and trying to trap and capture the whole sounders at one. That's the method that they've been finding in the States also is the most effective. They have, I forget what the number was, how many states they initially had wild pig in to, they've got, do you remember the number and how many they've said are clear now?
I think there was 11 or 12
I think
states.
it was
that were-
11 states that they believe they've eradicated them
Yeah.
from, and a couple that are on a watch list that they haven't seen signs of in the last 2 years, I believe it was. So they are working down there on their effort. They have had great things to say about the provincial program we have here, and kind of trying to work collaboratively with them on measures and kind of what we're seeing and what they're seeing. So it was a fantastic presentation. And on the drone presentation that Councillor Prestige was talking about, when they were talking, some of the new drones, especially at the costs, have come way down, the size of them and what they're able to do as far as with infrared and heat signatures and tracking if you have cattle dispersed or gone, especially in areas or regions where your topography might be a little bit more challenging to kind of traverse or navigate. Something that would typically take 45 minutes to an hour in a quad to get up there, they can get there within 10-15 minutes with a drone and give you an image of what's going on. And in regards to even predator control, they found that in areas where they found wolves and they found bears that have been encroaching on livestock, just the prop wash and noise of the drone coming in around somebody, they said even on a grizzly will chase them away. It was pretty impressive. I didn't realize, I figured that creature that big would just get irritated and try to take it down, but apparently the prop wash on the back of a bear, it makes it run. It was a fantastic conference. One thing I do want to talk about out of that conference, though, in the resolution session, I know I spoke to a resolution that probably was very unpopular with, we looked at the votes with at least half the audience, but in regards to the family farm awards that they used to host out of Edmonton at the farm fair that they had there. The program was sponsored by Tourism Edmonton. It was paid for by Tourism Edmonton, and the ag societies around the northern half of the province, we would nominate people. Councillor Williams and I, we were able to go down there and pass out awards one year, and it's a fantastic program. Unfortunately, Tourism Edmonton has dropped that program. They're not doing it, they're not funding it. CFR, all the rodeos, everything have moved from Red Deer and come back to the Edmonton area, but they haven't picked that back up. The issue is that the northern zone is feeling unrepresented, given that the southern side of the province is still represented by it, but the southern side of that program is now paid for. It's been paid for and run and is sponsored by the Calgary Stampede through that initiative. And it's one of those things that they're urging the ASB board to look at trying to pick this up and do this and fund this. Unfortunately, if you look at procedures and what we're there for, we're kind of a governing body, and that's, in my opinion, kind of out of our privy. But it's one of those things I feel if enough people, especially from the ASB, kind of look at this or want to possibly continue it. There are other northern, very large rodeo events like the Grand Prairie Rodeo, which we'll say municipalities could possibly work together, and if it's not done through BC Tourism, Tourism does, or Calgary's tourism department, I'm sure municipalities working together could probably do something through their ag sectors collaboratively to be able to do this. It is a great program. I know family members, but who've been sponsored, we've been there past awards. It's just unfortunately a piece that was dropped by the Edmonton Tourism, and I don't know how to get that message to them that it was something that it meant a lot to a lot of families and a lot of individuals, recognizing those people in ag. We had the Chamber Gala, which was spoken to, again, fantastic event put on by Chamber of Commerce. It's great to see the number of local individuals there and businesses that have been nominated for awards and who have received awards. And finally, we had, was that yesterday at the Alberta Crop Conference in Edmonton. Gonna take off here, finish it up after this meeting, but they won, a couple, I guess, really interesting discussions they had. One was around ag security and focusing on cybersecurity. And a lot of, and they're kind of put the folks that, a lot of people, when you think about cybersecurity or on that end, they're always concerned more about like large commercial, large industrial, but a lot of people, especially, no offense to some of the older generations, but on the digital side of things, they tend for a lot more of the phishing scams and emails and stuff that kind of come out, and they're trying to just kind of show, how everybody in general should be more aware of kind of these events and these emails and phone calls and stuff that come out, and the one prong click and what that can do to your finances. It's not just on the business end; the ag end is just as susceptible to it. If a farm loses all of their cash and you're hit by it, that definitely affects your operations. The other big one they were talking about was on the capital gains tax. Then the proposed implementations that are coming out. There has been some changes legislatively on the ag sector and kind of how that works around on the, we'll say in regards to property values or, capital or say farming assets versus non-farming assets that are part of your farm. If you have some of these farms that have over the years money is tied up in GICs and other investments, if you're over, I think 10% is a tip-off is what they said. If you're over that, that actually will impact and hurt your capital gains. If you're under that, it puts you in a different level. They talk about kind of the different strategies on how you can roll your farm over to younger generations, or if it's a single farmer running it. They called it the lonely farmer model, where it's beneficial to have obviously yourself on the farm, but start up kind of a holding company or a second company to partner, for your own, to partner on the farm. Say it just the disbursement of taxes and stuff works a little bit differently that way, and ultimately it ends up benefiting the farmer and the farm, from these gains. But unfortunately, fortunately, right now, none of this has actually been put into effect with federal government prorogued. We can't. We don't know where it's going to go. They said, it could be a couple months. It could be off the table. Not sure at this point, but it was a great presentation. And that's what I got. Any questions? Councilor Coogan?
Yeah, just to add to your comment about the Farm Family Award, after that little controversial thing, I went and looked back at the intent of that, and that was a kind of a promotion to interface rural with urban, and so I think that there's a certain degree of conversation that does need to happen around how do we get the urbans involved again, so that there's a recognition that there's farm families out there that are actually busting their humps to make sure that they're doing a good job of producing food for the people that live in the cities. So, despite that conflict and that debate that was there, when I went back to the intent, I realized it's a lot more of a complex situation than what was put in the resolution.
And I agree to that completely. It is something I would love to see come back. I think it needs to come back. I believe that we should be celebrating the people that we have in our ag sector without the individuals who are producing or managing the animals, working the land and producing the stuff that we need to realistically eat and survive. This would be a completely different geographical area without those people and what they do. So I would love to see us get back to that. I think that's, like you said, bigger conversations, and I think there needs to be maybe a collective of municipalities at the table on how we proceed and how we look at funding it. And even if that's pushed through ASB board, and then through councils, but I think at some point we got to try to have that conversation on a bigger scale. Anything else? Councillor Prestige?
I'll make a motion that council receives the council reports and questions for information.
Thank you, Councillor. With that, I'll call the question. All in favor? That's carried. 11.2, January 2025 Community Services Operational Report. Mrs. Ludwig.
Oh, thank you, Regent Council. So attached is the report for the various departments under my umbrella. I'll just hit some brief highlights. I'm sure you've all read all the exciting things my team has been up to. The fire truck has officially been purchased through the RMA's canoe program. It made it very smooth. I know that Sheldon was quite pleased with the process and how that went. as well as there's an upcoming fireball. We'll probably talk a little more about that in February. However, it'll be to recognize long service awards, some of our partners such as the province that we deal with and things like that. That has been scheduled for March 29th at 5:30 p.m. and I believe the EAO is sending out that invitation to council members. Health and safety, we're excited to announce that we did pass our core audit for 80%, and I'm sure Mr. Benedetto in his CAO's report will have maybe an addition to that. Planning and development, the team has been preparing for a subdivision and development appeal hearing, which will be held tomorrow. It was on a development that the Municipal Planning Commission had approved for an Airbnb, and we had an adjacent landowner that appealed that decision. So they'll be dealing with that tomorrow afternoon. The land use bylaw is the next big thing that they've been working on. Just currently doing a compilation of a draft of the document in full form to bring forward to then the committee, and then establish some public engagement sessions over the entire document. Economic development, community services. Miss Anderson's currently enjoying a vacation. She's on a cruise. However, and probably preparing herself to come back to a busy period. Her and I have been working on some job descriptions, in particular a reclassification in her position, and then the new initiative that council had approved through the budget being the Parks and Recreation Coordinator position. And we're looking forward to getting that established and summoned into the organization, as there are a few projects that are already coming forward to us. One being in particular the Blue Ridge Recreation Area. Alberta Transportation is at the point where it's pretty much depleted and wanting to move forward with that project. So there'll be quite a few conversations with Alberta Environment as well as Alberta Transportation on what that project will look like. Economic development, of course, Bert is always a busy individual on various meetings and that. I think the highlight is, of course, the SMR public engagement that Councillor Dean indicated, which will be on February 25th, 26th, and 27th. 25th and 26th is out at the casino, and the 27th will be out at the Blue Ridge Hall. There'll be some advertising coming out here right away. What else has he got? I think that's probably about it.
Thank you, Joan. Any questions for Joan? Do you have one? I would just check out you a second here, Councillor Dean. The SMRD, I know this is the second time come up here. I'm just checking, can administration send out an invite for us on our calendars on that, please?
Yes, I believe that was going to be run through the EA as we got the advertising from their. Yes.
Live off my calendar.
Absolutely.
Any other questions for Joan? Councillor Dean?
Yeah, just move that council accepts the January 2025 Community Services Operational Report as information.
Thank you, Councillor. Discussion on the motion? Seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor? And that's carried. Jeff, Mr. Zhang, 2025 Infrastructure Services Report.
Good morning, Your Worship and members of council. I'm here to provide this month's update from Infrastructure Services. As you I'll start with the capital project updates and then moving to operating. I will be providing select project updates under the capital, but if you want more information or want me to talk about other projects, feel free to ask. Moving on to the capital projects, item number 3, the plow truck is supposed to be here in 2024. It's being further delayed. It's looking into more like February now, not later. Number 5, the airport, we did apply for a STIP, and I just heard last night that the funding announcements decisions are going to be public this year around May or June timeline. I'm still trying to mull over the impact if it's a successful decision for us, what does that impact our construction timing? Because construction season is very short, and a decision that late, what are the potential impacts? I just learned that last night. I'm still trying to mull it over and see the impacts. Item number 11, we finally received authorization from Federal Department of Fisheries and Oceans. On this file, it's been about 9 months process trying to get a permit now. It's getting very long. However, we were able to secure our permit. I have the tender in our office, on our desk for review. We also applied a STIP funding for increasing our STIP funding on this one. A previous STIP grant that we got was based on a total project cost of $500,000. Now the current estimate for the project is over 700. So last year in November, I did sending a STIP application, just asked for that top up. And looks like that decision will also get delayed to May, June timeline for announcement. So there may be an impact there too. Next one, number 12. This one, we will be, we will be making an application under the CCBF grant for this project. We have the tender on our desk for review. Hopefully, we can still proceed with this project. Moving on, item 13 and 16, the West Mountain Bus Pover and Airport Access Road, we're currently reviewing the design. And item 14 and 15, those two resurfacing projects, we have received the draft tender for review. We're currently reviewing it. Moving on to 2025 capital budget projects. Item number 19, the Fort water treatment plant upgrades. Council may recall last year we had lots of challenges. We have entered into, we have reached out to a few contractors for quotes. We're just waiting for quotes to come in to get this project delivered. John already mentioned, well, item 21, the fire engine. It's I heard it's a 20-month delivery timeline. It's getting very, very long in terms of wait time. Item 22, this was approved by council in the budget. Subsequent to council's approval, we were able to discuss with Sheldon's department. We were able to find a internal swap, and therefore delaying the ask of $80,000 to a future year. We're able to facilitate an internal swap to make it work for this round. So in the final budget, likely in April or May, we'll make that amendment in the budget. The council will see that. Item number, next page. Item number 29, the airport lift station SCADA replacement upgrade. We already entered into a contract with a contractor for this work to be undertaken. Item number 33, the spray park at Blue Ridge. We also have retained a contractor trying to get this work completed before summer. Item number 34, the subdivision co-mixed roads. We're currently in the process of hiring a consultant to take this on. Item 35, urgent culvert replacement. Last year I presented council with 6 culverts. One of them, due to environmental permitting issues as well as potential grant funding from the province, we elect to just pull it back. Otherwise, we can keep waiting for a permit and delaying the rest. So, we're proceeding with 5 culverts right now. The RFQ is it's on the street. We're just waiting for quotes to come back, and then we'll work with the province to see if we can get funding for the 6. If we can get grant funding to deliver it, it's in the county, $80,000 to $100,000 in there. Moving on, the hand-to-hinge rollers, item 38, we have issued a PO for purchasing 2 more hand-to-hinge rollers. Item 39, downstairs development. We have interior designers now, and we have asked them to prioritize this work because we're running out of space for offices in this building, so we really need this work to be prioritized and with some urgency. Moving on to item 43, we're currently receiving quotes for the White Court Shop mezzanine floor. This is to provide more additional storage area as well as a second escape route for our staff at the building. Even though it was a new building from 2018, we believe there's a design misrepresentation or something. There isn't a second access or second exit for the staff on the second floor. If in case of fire, that's a hazard for us. Item number 44, we are also currently soliciting quotes for the asphalt sprayer. That's all the capital projects, and if there's no questions, I'll move on to operating.
Questions on the capital projects? Councillor Coogan and Councillor Dean.
Yeah, through the chair to Jeff. What is the status of the engineering on Carlson Drive?
Through the chair to Councillor Koken, the Casson's timeline is this month to give me a report. I haven't received it.
Thank you.
Sorry, if I can add one more thing. I did send a follow-up last week and asked them to prioritize.
Okay, good, thank you.
Councillor Dean.
Yeah, through the chair to Mr. Zhang, the resurfacing of both East and West Mountain Road, how do you see a sequencing, considering they're both major commuter routes and sometimes people on one side of the mountain need to use either or? Do you see them happening at the same time, or are you going to try and sequence that?
Through the chair to Councillor Dean, that's generally left to the contractor. However, we stipulate how much interruptions they can cause to travelers. The typical requirements are that the contractor cannot shut down the road. They have to maintain a one-lane traffic.
Okay.
So there's generally a delay going through construction zone, but it wouldn't be a total traffic stoppage.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on the capital side? Okay, when you're ready, we can go on the operation side.
Thank you. On the operating side, on the airport winter maintenance, and interim CEO Benedetto asked me to get a restart on the airport advisory committee. So I'll be putting that into action sometime in the early part of this year. On the water wastewater side, we're preparing our year-end report for our environment. That's reporting we have to do every year. On the solid waste side, through the operating budget of 2025, we have some money to install cameras. Councillors may recall from previous years of illegal dumping and those stuff, and we have some money to install some cameras, try to deter illegal dumping at our transfer sites. On agriculture services, we were able to borrow one of the technician to help out with us with our road work in the winter. That's very much appreciated. On the recreation side, we're planning for some tree trimming projects on the Old Bridge Highway near the viewpoint at Comai Hill. We're trying to just open up the area a bit so people have a better view to appreciate the natural wonders that we have. I've also asked one of my staff to reach out to the province to see what the province may be able to do with all the garbage dumps underneath the hill. It is really on Crown land, and I don't feel necessary for county to use our funding to clean up that. On the Harlech Canyon, I was saddened by reports of graffitis, and graffiti was profane language on our side. So the vandalism is disheartening. So I get our staff to take a look. On the road side, thank you, councillors, for your kind encouragements. I'm sure they'll go a long ways with the hardworking infrastructure services staff trying to keep all the roads open. We had a very busy December and even busier January. This temperature of this week have getting to the plus, and that snowfall for 4 days is absolutely not helping our operations and presents its challenges. We're trying our best to manage the situation. On the corporate side, we have been busy in the month of January for planning for the budget delivery. Thank you, Council, for your approval on the 2025 budget. Now the race is on for us to get it delivered and planned. We're also busy with the year-end process to clean off 2024. We're continuing with integration and the system implementation for the new asset management system, as well as financial management system. We're working with community services for funding recovery for the DRP 2023. We're working with corporate services for various different grant applications. We're actioning on all kind of hiring for our vacant and newly approved positions. And thanks, Council, again for approving additional positions for us. That's my report. Thank you very much.
Any other questions for Jeff? Councilor Pookin?
I'll make a motion that council accepts the January 2025 Infrastructure Services Report as information.
Thank you, Councilor. Call the question, all in favor? That's carried. Moves us down to Corporate Services Report, 11-4.
Mr. Reeve and members of council, I'll handle this report. And obviously the nature of corporate services is very much behind the scenes and providing the tools and the support they need for the other departments to function effectively. Directly, a service that they provide is with respect to human resources. And we have a very lean but mighty human resource team with our human resource coordinator and our accounting specialist, but most of the time with the accounting specialist is related to payroll related matters and on and off boarding different staff members. Reflecting on some of the accomplishments during the year, certainly the payroll has been very effectively administered. And to give an example of the volume, et cetera, and the onboarding and the offboarding, there's onboarding of 32 staff, offboarding of 26 staff, and 3 retirements. So I guess the good news is with all the numbers that we're plus in terms of the human resources that we have available. There is HR case management, complex situations, and the matter of disability leave management, and there's a lot of work involved in coordinating the leaves, ensuring compliance and support of the affected employees. And legal and employee relations matters address complex HR situations requiring careful management and discretion. On the benefit side, there is the annual benefits review, and there's ongoing discussion with a provider, Canoe Benefits. So we're aware of industry trends and inquire about other offerings, so we remain competitive with our benefits that we offer to our organization. And with your support through the budget, we're able to enhance our health and safety program and move into sort of some of the initial wellness and prevention side. And there's been a very positive response to a session for biometrics training, where quite often people with a simple blood test, but more something like blood pressure, et cetera, they can find out they may have the silent killer and the great causer of strokes being undetected high blood pressure. So it's really meant to, but also to encourage active living as well, so that they enjoy improved wellness in their personal life as well as their work life with us. Other couple major items to highlight here are the new computer systems that we are in the process of bringing on stream, and there's 2 major ones being the enterprise software for all of our financial systems, and of course the complementary asset management system, because the real power will be able to transfer data between the asset management system and the financials for doing financial forecasts. And of course, the initial work is gearing up for the fiscal year-end audit. So really in terms of the human resource side and the payroll, the credit goes to Leah and Anita for the work they do. And then, of course, Lan and Kara are doing a lot of the work with respect to the IT implementation. So with that, I'd answer any questions if you have any.
Any questions? Not seeing any, so I want to make a motion. Councilor Prestige?
Make a motion that council receives the corporate services report for information.
Thank you, Councilor. Call the question, all in favor? That's carried. Brings us down to our service tracker.
All right, Raven Council, before you is the monthly service tracker report for December 2024, and then the big one, the 2024 year-end report. So with the December report, 37 requests, 2 employee kudos thanking grader operators for their work, as well as 1 request from a resident asking council to review the closing times for the transfer sites. That was changed on November 1st, and they're just requesting council take another look at it to maybe extend those hours. For the year-end report, there was a 3.5% increase compared to last year, with a total of 500 requests. They were well in line with other years, as you can see kind of from the graphs. The snow plowing's requests always dip in between summer and grading, so that's all been consistent. And most other requests types have been fairly consistent between years. A couple of slight changes are the employee kudos had doubled from the previous year, from 9 to 18, and culvert and sign replacement requests were roughly half of what they were from the year before. Any questions regarding the service tracker reports?
I have a question, either to council or administration, I guess both. Has anybody else had any residents reach out about the new times for the transfer stations? I have a couple of individuals in my area, and I'm assuming one of them probably put this in here too. Their concern is, being a shift worker and kind of the available that they had. The later in the evenings on the weekdays was more appropriate for them for their garbage, and we reduced it, and now they got to try to find other ways to do it, and I think just pile up more is, I guess, the concern. So I was just curious if anybody else has heard anything, or if administration's heard anything from anybody else.
We've only just received that 1 request through service tracker as far as I know.
And again, it could be just people having to get used to a new normal. So any other questions, comments, concerns? Come on.
The council accepts the 2024 December and year-end service tracker reports as information.
Thank you, Councillor. With that, I'll call the question. All in favor? That's carried. 11.6 CAO report.
Mr. Reven, members of council, I want to start off, there's been reference to it, to the road maintenance and the outstanding efforts of our crews. Jeff also took some extra steps on the weekend to address some concerns on one of the difficult school bus routes. And, to say that this has been hugely challenging has been an understatement with this constant freeze-thaw cycle. And we get water in the middle of our roads and then it freezes, and then we're battling with ice, and of course that's very hard to combat. We do the best with the special ripper blades on our grading equipment and chips and other things, but it's been hugely challenging. We appreciate the understanding of the public, but there is tremendous credit goes to our crews and the efforts they are putting forward to address a very, very difficult winter in terms of road conditions, ice. We've been working with onboarding for Matthew, trying to assemble information for him and try to give him as much background as we can on the multitude of initiatives that are underway. I'm sure he feels like he's drinking from a fire hose, but he seems to thrive on that, so we'll continue to support him in any way that we can. We had talked to council about enhancing our public communication with outlining the 2024 accomplishments and reporting some of the strategic plan results to the community, as well as the upcoming budget initiatives. The management group have been asked and have actually provided some very good input in terms of additional topics, so we do look forward to pulling that together and sharing it with you to get your blessing before it is sent out at all. And of course, unfortunately for our good neighbors at Lac Seine and County, they had a fire that took out their, as I understand it, their public works building and a number of their units as well as heavy equipment. We have reached out to them to offer some assistance if we can. We've got limited equipment and things, but we do have some things that we think we could help from them. So I reached out to the CAO and Jeff reached out to his counterpart, and they've responded and said they would let us know if there's something that we could help them with. So certainly, and we heard at the zone meeting as well that the municipalities really stepped up to try to help them out in a difficult situation. Joan touched on the Pierce aerial pumper, and we're rolling out the communications, and there's been very positive feedback from some of our local industries and the bigger businesses about that unit being available on a special call basis within Woodlands County. The RMA zone meeting, most of the items have been touched on. On the update as well, they did touch on the mature assets and the issue of resource property tax payments, and that certainly is an ongoing concern that we have to continue to keep our eye on with RMA. Health and safety, Joan touched on this, and we did pass the audit. Certainly we are preparing for the 2025 external audit. They have a little bit more of a rigorous criteria. And the one part that I want to highlight is one of the components is leadership of health and safety. And with the support of my colleagues in the senior management team and Beverly, our health and safety coordinator, the leadership component went from 65% to 85% in the last year. And that's through the dedicated efforts of really stressing that safety is how we do our work. It's not an add-on, it's how we do things. We do things at the county. And I certainly want to express my appreciation to council, the senior management team, the management group, and all of the dedicated individuals serving Woodlands County for your support during the time when Rod and I have served you in the interim CAO capacity. It's greatly appreciated, and I thank you.
Any questions, comments, Mr. Benedetto? Not seeing one. I should have mentioned in my report, I can bring it up here too though, just for the CAO. I will not be available March 4th to 19th. I will be out of the country. I will not have my phone on me. If you call me, you won't get anything. So anything else for Mr. Benedetto?
That was March 4th to the 18th, just so we get
4 to 19.
4 to 19, just so we get our calendar.
Prestige?
I'll make a motion, council receives the CAO report for information.
Counselor, I'll call the question. All in favor? And if I can get a motion to go into closed session under FOIP 17 and 23, we'll take a quick 10-minute break and then come back and finish up the last two. Councilor Burrows?
I'll make a motion that we go into closed session under point 23 and 17 priorities.
With that, I'll call the question. All in favor? It's carried, and we are in closed session at 11:05. Okay, we're back after closed session. Have a couple of resolutions. Call one, Councilor Wilhelm.
I'll note that, I'll make a motion that council receive the compiled county council priorities 2025 survey for information to assist the new CAO with the prioritization of initiatives.
Thank you. With that, I'll call the question. All in favor? That's carried. 12-2 CAO report. Thank you, John. 12-2, Councilor Dean.
I move that council receives the CAO report for information.
Thank you, Councilor. With that, I'll call the question. All in favor?
In favor?
Thank you, Councilor Burrows. Leaves us number 13, Councilor Wilhelm.
Oh, motion to adjourn.
No discussion on that. Call the question. All in favor?
In favor.
And we are adjourned. Thank you very much. Safe travels, John.
You too, Dan.